Today, we are going to unpack a philosophy that started on a factory floor but grew into this massive global movement. It's called Kaizen, and it's built on a really simple but powerful idea that tiny, everyday changes can lead to absolutely huge, game-changing results. So, how exactly does it work?
All right, here's our roadmap. First, we're going to look at the problem Kaizen was created to solve. Then we'll dig into what it really means. After that, we'll identify the enemy it's designed to fight, lay out the actual playbook, and then see how this whole spirit applies to, well, pretty much everything.
To really get why Kaizen is such a big deal, we first have to understand the world it came from, a world that was just filled with this profound but often totally invisible waste. And the whole thing kind of started with one moment, one observation. Picture this. Taiichi Ono, one of the architects of the Toyota system, is watching a worker on the line. And this guy's only job, his entire job, was to stand there and watch a machine that literally never broke down. And in that moment, Ono didn't just see an inefficient process. He saw something much worse, a terrible squandering of human potential. That single observation sparked a complete revolution in thinking. See, the old way, the mass production way, saw people as, well, as interchangeable parts, a cost you could just cut when things got tough. But Toyota made this historic bargain with its employees, guaranteeing them lifetime employment. And suddenly that changed everything. Workers weren't a variable cost anymore. They were a fixed cost, an investment. And you don't just get rid of an investment, you develop it, you nurture it, you tap into its genius.
So, with this totally new respect for human potential, Ono and his team had to come up with a solution, a way to continuously tap into that brain power every single day. Now, on the surface, the definition is pretty simple. The word Kaizen literally translates to change for the better. We usually hear it as continuous incremental improvement. But honestly, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Because Kaizen isn't just a business tactic. It's what's known as a do, a path. Think of it like a martial art. It's not a project you finish, it's a practice you commit to for your entire life. It's not about some big, flashy overhaul. It's all about the humble, daily spirit of just asking, how can we make this just a little bit better today?
Okay, so if you're on this lifelong path of improvement, you need a direction, right? You need a target to aim for. Kaizen aims to hunt down and eliminate one thing above all else, muda, which is the Japanese word for waste.
And this waste, this muda, it shows up in all sorts of ways. It's not just about throwing scrap in a bin. It's the waste of making too much stuff before you need it, the waste of walking back and forth, the waste of just waiting around. And maybe, just maybe, the biggest waste of them all is not using the creativity and the knowledge of your team.
And here is where things get really crazy. When you actually study a typical business process, you find something staggering. About 95% of all activities are pure waste. Only 5% actually adds value that a customer would care about. I mean, just think about that. Waste isn't some small problem you need to trim. It is a vast ocean of opportunity. So, if 95% of what we do is waste, how in the world do you even start to tackle that? Well, that brings us right to the Kaizen playbook, how you actually put this whole philosophy into action. The core logic here is so simple, but it's brilliant. You can't improve a process until you actually define the process. That's why it all starts with standardization. But listen, this isn't about creating rigid rules to trap people. It's about agreeing on the current best way we know how to do a job. That standard gives you a stable foundation. It becomes the launch pad for your next improvement. But here's the most important part. This isn't driven by some executive in an office. The real engine of Kaizen is the involvement of the people who actually do the work. It happens through things like Kaizen circles, where small groups get together to solve problems, or through simple suggestion programs. It all comes down to the idea that the people closest to the work are the real experts. So let's zoom out for a second, because while Kaizen was born in a factory, its spirit is totally universal. It's not really about cars or machines. It's about a fundamental way to approach any challenge. Ultimately, adopting Kaizen means adopting this spirit. It's a deep-seated cheerfulness, a genuine belief that improvement is always possible, that tomorrow will be better. It's the discipline to go and see problems for yourself, not just read about them in a report. And it's the humility to get your hands dirty, to learn by doing. And that mindset, that can transform any team, any project, any personal goal you have.
In the end, the Kaizen journey doesn't kick off in some big factory or a fancy office. It starts with a single step, with one small change. So the real question isn't just about what can be improved. It's about what's the one piece of waste that you are going to eliminate tomorrow.